to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today is another What Would Lou Do show. I don't know why I said it like that. That's just silly. Anyway, I happen to like these shows a lot, and I understand you do too. So thank you on that. If you have any questions, this is the show when I answer them for you. The link will be in the show notes. So if you have a dying question that you wonder, what would Lou do? Please fill it out. And when I get it, I make it a show and answer your question. All right. So today, here is our question. Hi, LuAnn. Thank you for all of your amazing advice and insight. It has been invaluable. Today, I need some advice. I'm a classically trained interior designer with a master's degree. A lot of my work recently has been in the community side of design, nonprofits, cities, etc. After I finished my graduate degree, I created my own business that is a hybrid interior design and community design focused studio. I missed my days in residential design and wanted to create a space where I could do both. Anyway, I regularly do work for other decorators and designers, especially after the pandemic started. It's easy to do graphic design, 2D drawings, and renderings remotely. My partner's sister is an interior stylist in Nashville. I usually steer clear of doing any paid work with family, but here we are. She is not a designer, but she is very creative. Her husband is a well-known music artist, and therefore she has had a lot of wealthy connections. Long story long, I agreed to do elevations for her starting last September. The project is in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and it has been 95% remote. The project is a 6,600 square foot spec house with a luxury mountain feel. This is not a project that she is equipped to take on, and I have worked nearly full-time helping her, including creating renderings, sourcing materials and products, space planning, basically everything necessary. She is only able to pay me for 12 hours a month for the elevations, and that is where I have been capping my invoices. For this project, I've been pulling out all the stops to show her and the investor what I am capable of, although I don't know that the investor even knows that I exist. But I've been going above and beyond to establish myself as a credible, educated, highly skilled asset for these projects. There are more houses that this investor is looking to build, and she is starting to think about us working together on the next one. My issue is, how do I get fairly compensated? Do I create a services list or go by that? Go by that? Should I propose a set fee for the entire project, or should I just not do another project together? She has referred to me as her, in quotes, not her employee, but you know. End quotes. And then she says exact words. And I'm feeling a bit devalued. In my opinion, she would never have had this level of design with anyone else without paying most of what her paid fee was. I totally understand this is an issue of egos, and I'm willing to negotiate, but I'll be darned if anyone thinks I'm their employee when I have my own company and have been a designer for almost 15 years. I have poured my knowledge, time, and skill into this, and I don't think she recognizes the value. In an ideal world, we would go halves on the projects, creating an LLC for the collaboration and just tag team, each providing our individual skills to get the job done. Without the conversation of compensation, she and I have worked pretty well collaborating together. Please help me. I don't know what to do, and I don't want to jeopardize the relationships. Many thanks. All righty. So let's talk about this. There are many factors making this an incredibly hard situation, right? The two of you are family. You have been working for months, not billing your full time, which means you have established a bad precedent for the value of all the other things that you've been doing for the project. You are hoping the investor notices you and notices how you are positively impacting the project, yet you said you're not even sure that the investor knows you're on the project. And finally, you have been offended that she referred to you as my employee, yet did you ever talk to her about what your role is, what you own on the project, and how you will interact, if at all, with the others involved, right? It sounds like to me that at the beginning of this anyway, you didn't require that the investor know who you were, right? So the thing is, I do see this spider web of entanglements, and I can sense the ticking time bomb of emotions and feelings. By now, you have listened to this podcast long enough. You can probably already diagnose what is at the root of this very touchy problem. You entered this relationship without clarity in each of your expectations in all of the areas, right? Now, hearing this, please don't knee-jerk and say, well, no. We had clarity. We agreed I would do elevations at X hours per week at X dollars per hour. In hindsight, I'm sure you can see that that was clarity about only one thing, right? The elevations. And here's the thing. I need you to know that I believe it was your responsibility to establish the clarity. I believe it was your role to be sure that all the what ifs all were defined beyond the possibility of only doing the elevations. Because to your point, you are the professional. You do have the 15 years experience, and you know the places and the ways a project creeps and expands. Your in-law, who is a stylist, or any garden variety consumer really doesn't know this going into a project. I'm not saying that she is right in this situation at this point, but I am saying if she's never executed a design project before, how would she know that just getting elevations from you wasn't all she needed? It's you who, with your years of experience, I believe, could have looked at a project of this size, looked at what she was asking you to do, and said, hey, I got to tell you, just doing elevations is not going to cut it for this, right? All right. Here's the thing. Even though you didn't do this on the beginning, right? Okay, you live and you learn. Don't worry about it. At the very first sign, at the very first overstep, I believe it was, again, your responsibility to speak up. And you see, when we do this at the first sign, it can be what I always tell my chairman of board clients, it's easy breezy, right? So as soon as she started to ask for more than elevations, and as soon as she started to need, it's, oh, hey, that request isn't an elevation. Of course, I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to add services here, but let's talk about what it looks like and how we should handle it. We can simply add to our existing agreement, or we can set up a new one. But let's discuss what you need, and let's see what is the best way for me to deliver this to you. I want you to know up front what it looks like so you can make an informed decision about having me do additional things as the project progresses. Does that sound good? Right? I mean, here's the thing. Even if that moment she was like, well, no, I mean, I don't need you to do anything else. And you'd be like, okay, great. I'll just go back to elevations. Bye. Right? But unfortunately, sadly, here you are. You're doing more and more things, and you're unfortunately also silently feeling taken advantage of, which stinks big time, right? I know it does. And I know it feels daunting to have a conversation at this point, not just because you didn't educate her ahead of time, but because she is family, and that is a tough wrinkle. But you know what I'm going to do right now? I'm going to go back to my ever-constant restaurant analogies. So hang on while we do this. You go to a restaurant. You sit down. You look at the menu. You order a burger or fries, and you ask for a glass of water. You see that the price is $12. Yay. The waiter brings you everything, and he lays down your check. But then a few minutes later, you think, sure would love to have broccoli. You ask him for it, he brings it, but he doesn't adjust the check. You're happily eating. You know what? I think I'll have a glass of wine. That sounds good. He brings it. You're enjoying yourself. You're not really paying front and center attention to whether the check is being altered or not. You don't really care at this point, right? If it were altered, that would be fine. But at this point, you don't care. You know what? And guess what? You're going to ask for a salad. And guess what? You decide to have dessert too. He brings it all, never saying a thing about how much any of these things cost. He just delivers them, smiling, doing his job. Ultimately, you're ready to leave. You pick up the check. You look at it. It's got $12 for the burger and fries. You think, You pay it. You walk out happy, full, content, and thinking to yourself, what a great place. I had so much food, and I had such a great time. I'll be back here. Okay? I mean, do you hear this? Does it sound familiar? It should. She ordered elevations. You invoiced her for those. But when she wanted or you offered resourcing, space planning, renderings, you gave them to her without revising the check. And now you're like the waiter standing there watching, the customer walk out feeling upset and ripped off and wondering how anybody could possibly go into a restaurant and order all of that food and not think it was going to be added to the bill. But you see, the restaurant patron thought they were out of business. They did not think that they were at their friend's house. They knew they were at a restaurant. And when you are at a business, if you ask for something that needs to be paid for, the business adjusts the check or you get another one. And if you don't, well, then I guess you can assume it's all part of the original service. I mean, what business do you know that keeps delivering products and services to someone without invoicing them? How many of you just said mine? Right? I know that you do this. It's not just this person that wrote to me. I have had the conversations with you. Okay? You're not alone. This is one of the top 3 mistakes that I find designers and creatives in general make when running their business. So don't please feel embarrassed. Don't beat yourself up. But just take a look at how this is really your doing and not your in-laws' doing. Right? She just kept saying, you're doing that and you offering or her asking, and you didn't change the bill. You didn't add the glass of wine. All right. So what's the good news? The good news is, since it is your doing, you are in the driver's seat and you can course correct. Yay. All right. Although, because you are in the driver's seat, it doesn't mean that it might not be a bumpy ride. Okay. So at this point, I think the only way to right this situation is to calmly, professionally address the elephant in the room. Remembering that there is probably a very good chance that there is no elephant in her room. She asked you to do something, you did it. You did it without an invoice, or you saw something that needed to be done and you did it without an invoice. And she has no reason to suspect possibly that there's a problem. Okay? I know that comes hard to you to understand, to any one of you. But you have to really understand that your client is not an interior designer. Your client does not know how your business runs. The interior design business model is so complicated and has so many different components to it. It is way more likely that somebody goes into a restaurant and keeps ordering and knows darn well that they should get the invoice revised, right? It's way more likely that if a waiter does not revise the invoice, that somebody walks out and is like, hey, I just got away with bloody murder here, right? But, it's very straightforward. There's a piece of pie, there's a $4 bill. There's a glass of wine, there's a $12, charge for it. Like, it is very cut and dry. But what you guys do is not cut and dry. So when you don't have clarity, when you do not invoice for your services, when you do them, and you do not speak up for yourself when you deliver things at no charge, How do you ever expect anyone else to? How do you expect your client to know where the gray line is? I mean, come on, right? So now comes the hard part. Hard for any business owner and client to have a tough conversation. But admittedly, this is especially hard for you since it is your family, right? However, to that end, if you do have a good personal relationship, which it sounds like you do, you said you collaborate well together, and if you were being compensated properly, you would probably, you would never have needed to write a What Would Lou Do letter, and you'd be happy, okay? So since you do have a good personal relationship, you can express your desire to get back on track, both from the desire to have clarity from a business standpoint, but also because you care about her. You care about your relationship with her, and you want to have a respectful environment with her, right? One that you're both happy, confident, and secure. So tell her that you see a future here for the two of you with this opportunity, and that you know that she, like you, has her and you both have your both best interest in mind. So let's talk this through. Let me share what I see as the ways I can support you with these projects that maybe we'll do together, and let's come up with a business plan that makes sense for both of us. Okay? So what I want to tell you is, before going into this conversation though, you have to, like I always say, you have to get very clear on what you want first. You don't bring this up and then somebody, any conversation, client, in-law, anybody, and they say, oh, okay, so what do you want to do? And you're like, humna, I have no idea. So you get very clear on what you want. And then once you're clear on what you want, you then get clear on what you will do and what you will not do to get it. Okay? So meaning, based on this experience, what should the future look like? I mean, do you even really want to do these projects with her? I know there's a part of you that's excited about them. It is exciting. I mean, it sounds like amazing projects. But think about it. Like, put your ego aside. Do you want to work on remote projects like this? Does it matter to you? Is it really a good revenue stream? Is it taking you away from your priority projects at home? Like, you actually have to just figure out from a business standpoint, does this make sense for you to do? Okay, that's number one. And then once you have decided, if it makes sense for you to do these, now consider, do you want to be partners? Do you want to be? Is that your preference, to actually form an LLC and to be partners on these projects? Or is there a possibility that you'd actually rather be a subcontract employee and do whatever services are needed within your capabilities that you can deliver with a price tag attached to each one? Because she's a great lady, she's a terrific stylist, but do we want to be in business with her? I mean, I don't know. Maybe you do. Maybe she runs a killer stylist business and she's a rock star entrepreneur. But if she's not, I mean, I don't know. So I'm not actually trying to move you pro or con. I'm trying to prod you to actually step back and consider, what do you want? Okay? All right? Partnering could be great. Okay? But so could, establishing a ladder of services and say, whenever you want 3 of these, let me know, and this is how much they cost. Renderings are this, elevations are that, sourcing is this amount of thing, whatever it is. Okay? All right. And then what you want to do, you need to then attach what you're willing to do for it, and what you want for it and what you won't do for it. In other words, what price tag needs to be attached. So if we're going to go partners in business, are we 50-50? Is it not? I don't know. All right. Are you going to, propose that you work as a sub? So what do elevations cost? What does sourcing cost by the hour? Like, figure it all out. Define the ideal finances for you for all the scenarios. Okay. Because you want to be prepared for when you bring this conversation up. All right. Because when you bring the conversation up, one of a couple of things could happen. She could say, oh my God, I'm so glad you brought this up. I felt some tension between us, but I didn't understand why. Thank you so much for talking with me. Please tell me what went wrong and how we can fix it. Okay? And then you're prepared. Or she could be like, I don't get what your problem is. I asked you if you wanted to do elevations. You said yes. I asked you if you wanted to do that. You said yes. If you needed money, you should have told me, or you're the one who offered. Like, I'd have no idea. She might not see what the big deal is. All right. So be prepared for each scenario. Think it through. For me, I always like to take the high road because I feel like I don't need to bother to teach someone a lesson. I'm not their mama, right? So if she comes out with, this is all your problem, I don't know what the problem is, you're being ridiculous, you can be like, well, I'm sorry you don't see what I'm trying to say, but hey, we're family, let's chalk it up, and let's just, say, let's keep business and family separate going forward and agree to disagree. That's like a high road conversation. You don't have to, like, for me, I'm not going to get in the weeds and be like, let me explain to you how, you have no idea what you're talking about, right? But if it goes well, and she says, oh my goodness, how did it go sideways? What can we do to fix it? Then you can say, I have some ideas about that. Would you like to hear them? Right? And then she's going to say, yeah. And then you can go in to explain the one plan for partnering, the other plan for subbing. If you know you want one or the other, just explain the plan that you want. If you're like, I could be open to either, then you go down and explore both sides of the plan, right? So the bottom line here is, there is a very clear takeaway for this What Would Lou Do show. And that is clear agreements always with everyone, clients, friends, family. I mean, take it to your personal life, teachers, spouses, children, all the people. Have the weird, awkward conversation about money and time and labor and expectations when everyone is in a position to change their mind and say, no, thanks, I don't want to do that. And no one is upset or put out, okay? Now, what's the next takeaway? What is the next best thing if you haven't done the first thing, which is set out the expectations on the front? The next best thing is the very moment things go sideways. Have the courage to say, hey, can we talk about this? This isn't what I thought it was, but I think we can figure it out. I think we can still keep working together, but we've got to talk about a couple of things before this gets out of hand. All right? Because even if you had done that way back at the first sign, it wouldn't be as hard as it is now, right? It wouldn't have. It would have been the first thing. And she either would have got it or she wouldn't have. But if she didn't, you would have stopped working. You wouldn't have done hours and hours and hours of unpaid work and feeling taken advantage of, right? And then finally, the last thing that I want to say about this and about a takeaway for this very unfortunate situation that our friend is in here is that every time you hear the voice in your head that says, uh-oh, that doesn't sound right. This doesn't feel good. I don't think the other person is really understanding what I'm saying, or I don't really like what they just proposed, but I don't really want to bring it up. It feels uncomfortable to bring it up. Maybe I'm going to put, a fly in the ointment. The deal isn't going to close, or they're going to get upset, or, we're going to have a disagreement now. Remind yourself of this very moment. And every one of you listening when you've been in this situation, because we've all been here, every single one of us. You don't run a business and escape this moment. I promise you that, okay? Remind yourself of this moment when there was no other recourse but to have the very tough conversation at the end of all of the hurts and the misunderstandings. Because when you realize that you're faced with a tough conversation, and you don't want to have it, and you realize that you're going to have it anyway. You're going to have it anyway. It's going to be weeks or months down the road, and it is going to be way more uncomfortable, way more charged, and way less likely to end easily. Okay? So you have to think forward and say, Do I want to have this mildly, squirmy thing now? Or do I want to have one of those conversations that's going to keep me up for 3 nights thinking about every nuance of who's going to say what until I actually have the courage to open my mouth? Okay. All right. And I want to just say a reminder to episode number 222 when Lee Cockrell came here, and he was the executive VP of operations for Walt Disney World, and he said, when you only do the easy things, everything else gets harder. But when you do the hard things, everything else gets easier. I mean, amen on that, right? So, all right, I hope that was helpful. My heart goes out to you. I mean, the family element just makes it that much more difficult. But as I said, you do seem to have a good, solid friendship and relationship, and start there. Start with love, start with kindness, and say, look, I probably should have had this conversation with you a while ago, but I need to, just say some things and hopefully get the two of us on track. And you may not be aware of them, and that's going to be on me as well, but the time has come. Okay. All righty. Now, if you are local to me here in the New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Connecticut area, we are having a lunch and learn at WindowWorks on May 23rd. That's right. And Nicole Heimer of Glory and Brand is going to be our presenter. And you already know what a rock star she is. But come and join us on May 23rd. She is going to teach us about our marketing. She's going to do a very specific program, which I love. She's going to walk us through if you have $500 a month to spend on marketing. So that's a $6,000 a year budget, right? Or if you have $1,500 a month to spend on marketing, or you have $5,000 a month to spend on marketing, right? So if you have a $6,000 a year budget for marketing all the way to a $60,000 a year budget for marketing, Nicole is going to walk us through where and how we should spend that money. It's an amazing topic. She does a killer job at it, and I learn something every time I hear her talk about it. So go to the link tree in my Instagram or the WindowWorks Instagram for the RSVP link. It is free. We start at 12:30, we end at 3, and we have a great lunch, and we talk, and we hang out, and we visit, and then we get our brains blown by Nicole. So, yay. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. Decide to be excellent. Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of LuAnn Nigara, Inc. If you want to know more about me, my books, or LuAnn University, go to LuAnnNigara.com. And if you are interested in having WindowWorks help you with your next window treatment or awning project in the New York, New Jersey metro area, go to WindowWorksNJ.com to learn more. Have an excellent day.